Okay, we'd like to call this hearing on the Utah Ethical Government in session right now, and here we are at Richfield at the SBC Center on September 21st for the Central Region. My name's Stephen Player, and I'm the moderator here, and I'll just give you an idea of what the agenda is going to be, and then we'll go through the process and listen to people and see when we're finished. When I'm finished, Dixie will talk about why Utahns need legislative ethical reform. She'll be followed by the specifics of the initiative by Alan Smith, who is an attorney, and then one of the local supporters will then speak, Brent Thorne, and then I'll talk about the petition gathering system. Once we're finished with that, then we'll open it to the public, to the people that are here to be able to talk, and when you do, we'll ask you to state your name and where you're from. And just remember that, this is what it says, the ground rules. Civil discourse, limit your comments when you do to 2 minutes, and no disruptive actions. So if we could do that, we'd really be pleased to look at it and listen. And I think it's important for us to do that. And so then I'll turn the time over to Dixie, and we'll let her present her part of the program.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks to those of you who've come out to learn about Utahns for Ethical Government. This is our logo. We are a nonpartisan citizens organization committed to ethics reform, and of the Utah legislature in particular. We are a group of Republicans and Democrats, pretty equally balanced in terms of having former legislators supporting this effort. And we will describe what we're up to and why. We want Utah to be among the leaders of the 50 states instead of really behind. As it is now. This was a cartoon that showed up in the Ogden Standard Examiner. It may give you a little feeling for what a cumbersome, difficult process this is. And look at the big shoes that ethics reform has to fill. Okay. Why do we need ethics reform? When we finish with that, we'll do what? And how you can help. Utah is one of only 10 states in the country that doesn't have an independent ethics commission. This is one of the ways we're at the back of the pack. 36 of those commissions deal directly with legislative ethics reform. The source for this is 2 separate sources. Office of Ledge Research and General Counsel at the state, and also the Governor's Commission on Strengthening Democracy, which is doing some very interesting parallel work to that of ours, trying to figure out why the voter turnout has been so low in Utah and what we can do to really encourage more active participation of citizens. What happens when there's no independent ethics commission? This is just one example that I'm going to put up here. During 2008, a former Utah legislator accused another legislator of bribery, of trying to pay the legislator for a certain vote. The Ethics Committee actually had to meet. The Ethics Committee doesn't meet very often, has not met very often at the legislature. It had to meet on this one. And there were 8 legislators on the Ethics Committee, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. It's set up that way so that it's an even number. The accused legislator reported to the press that he'd been exonerated by the Legislative Ethics Commission. That's not quite true. Actually, the committee issued a reprimand. They could agree on that, but they split 4-4. for thinking it should go forward because there was enough evidence of the bribery, for saying no, it shouldn't. And guess what? It split along totally partisan lines. This is one of the things that has so frustrated our group, because we've seen that the legislature really has a difficult time not being partisan. Everything gets political, and the decisions get made on partisan grounds. Bob Bernick, who's been following this a lot in the Deseret News, said several of the votes were split 4-4, and just as I've already said, on partisan lines, they couldn't move this complaint forward. Something else we want you to know. Utah has no limit on campaign contributions. We are one of an increasingly small number of states that have no limits. This figure cites 6, but it forgets to put Missouri in white if you're counting. If you look at the white states, don't have any campaign limits, and Missouri is among them. But New Mexico's already passed a law, and next month it goes into effect, and now we'll be down to one of 5 states that doesn't have any limits on campaign contributions. And in the paper, I've seen a report that we're one of only 4, so I don't know if there's yet another state that has acted since the map was produced, but in it, you get the point. We are one of only a very few states without any limits on campaign contributions. There's what I just told you. My thumb isn't very good. There. Now, most of the money that's going into legislative campaigns is coming from special interests. It's coming from lobbyists. More than 81% of the funds that finance our candidates is coming from special interests. This is, again, we've used a lot of public sources for this information so that you'll know where it comes from. This is from the Deseret News. Corporations donate without any limitations at all. There's absolutely no limit on the amount of money that a corporation can give for a legislative campaign. It was $2.5 million last go-around, and that's a third of all the contributions. Now, this corporations, other lobbyists, other special interests, are making the difference between the 1/3 and the 81% figure you just saw. Unions, banks, energy solutions, UEA, all kinds of other special interest groups that contribute to campaigns. But it's not you, and it's not me. I mean, we are less than 20% of the amount of money that is used to fund our own candidates, our own people. There are, and we'll get to that in a minute. Because we've been trying to tighten the disclosure laws, and that's been an issue. This is just one example of how high the contributions can get. Since 2006, one corporation has spent over $500,000 on Utah politicians from both parties, $400,000 on congressional candidates, $1 million on lobbyists. A lot of the special interests that have money to really give out hedge their bets. They give some money to both parties. They tend to weigh it more heavily toward the party they're more interested in. But they're trying to buy access all over, so they donate to both parties. The same corporation contributed money to more than 80%. So they were distributing their money quite broadly. Now, this is a very interesting other fact you may or may not know, that legislators can spend their campaign funds pretty much as